Welcome to News from Down Home. Now, I'm reading from, at this point, I'm quoting from the Marylander and Herald, the newspaper of record in Princess Anne, Somerset County, Maryland. And this is in May 20th, 1913. Now, do you remember in my American history notes when I posted those, talking about the Oyster War being the longest, actually could be violent conflict at times in running in American history? Well, the Oyster War raises its ugly head here on this date in 1913. Smith's Island oystermen. Smith's Island is a very important place. You should look it up. Smith's Island oystermen pulling up stake buoys in the Chesapeake Bay. It says Oyster War looked for. Now, trouble developed Friday morning among the. Now, this is not technically the Oyster War I was talking about, but it is an Oyster War. There's a lot of conflict among the watermen throughout history. You would think it would be a Pacific enterprise that people would enjoy just doing what they're doing out there on the water, but there was a lot of conflict, a lot of competition. So anyway, trouble developed Friday morning among the oystermen of Smith's Island and the oyster bed planters when the former pulled up the buoys marking the survey of the Shellfish Commission and the stakes placed by the planters in the Chesapeake Bay. And then just a little bit more, during the last few days, the oystermen of Smith's Island have been holding meetings in which they voted their sentiments against the replanting of the oyster beds. The trouble is the outgrowth of resentment by the dredgers against the right of the state to control the oyster beds and to lease them to planters. The dredgers contend they should have the right to dredge in any and all beds in the Chesapeake Bay within the limits of the state lines. Now, Captain Edward P. Tyler, a former commander of the police schooner Helen Bogham, who lives on Smith's Island, went to Crisfield Friday morning. Crisfield's another important place to remember. Friday morning and reported conditions as very bad. Tyler said the stakes and buoys were being pulled up, that oystermen were getting out their rifles and preparing to camp off the bottoms where they were destroying the stakes in order to prohibit the restaking of this ground by the planters. The situation is serious and one that officials have never had to face before. It is probable that the Oyster Navy, under the command of Captain T.C.R. Howard, will be called to the scene of trouble. This is the first open break brought about, and the situation is alarming. The same trouble occurred some years ago between the oystermen and the planters of the shores of Anne Arundel County. There was an adjustment of the matter, and now it is stated the oystermen favor planting oysters and leasing the beds. Now, clearly, this is not the same oyster war I was talking about, but I just wanted to point it out to show you the contentiousness of making your living on the bay. All right? Now, by the way, Smith's Island, you want to look that up. It's a very historic place, and I think you'd get something out of it by looking it up. It's let me just pull something up here. It's about 10 miles west of Crisfield. It's across the Tangier Sound portion of the Chesapeake Bay. There's only 3 communities on it. Tylerton, Rhodes Point, and Ewell, Maryland. So it's 3 distinct island communities. So it's the last inhabited island in Maryland that is not accessible by car. If you want to get there, you got to go by boat. And the Virginia portion of the island is not inhabited. So they're actually eroding. Anyway, but something else I want to talk to you about today. I want to tell you about, when I was talking about Nutter's Purchase yesterday, about the Christopher Nutter's Purchase at 30455 Fleur's Lane. Well, I want to go over, if you walk back to Somerset Avenue to the church in the graveyard, you'll see the Minokan Presbyterian Church, and I have a lot of relatives buried there, including my grandparents. That's at 11890 Somerset Avenue, if my source is correct. It was one of the first organized Presbyterian churches established in America. The first preaching on the ground took place in 1672 when a group of Presbyterians who had settled on the Lower Eastern Shore petitioned the grand jury of Somerset County for a civil permit to hold services of worship and have their own minister. It was one of 5 churches organized by the Reverend Francis McKimmey when He arrived from Ireland in 1683. The original church was constructed prior to 1692. The present walls were erected in 1765, and the three-story bell tower was added in 1888. So that information can be found in a book called A Walking Tour of Princess Anne, Maryland. And I'll continue using that as a resource as I continue talking about different historical buildings in Princess Anne, as I give you the news from down home. Thank you for watching today.